Hello, hello, lovely people. I am Rachel Cunningham, and you're listening to Joyful Love, where I'm recording live again on YouTube. So if you're joining live, welcome. And if you're listening to the replay, welcome to you as well. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when your partner gets so defensive. I know so many of you have been there, and I've been there, and I'm sure my husband has been there. We all have times where we get defensive. So, have you ever tried to bring up something to your partner that you'd like to work on or that you'd like to improve, or some changes that you would like to make, and they get really defensive? If so, you're not alone. And, so many times we don't know how to respond in a way that helps our partner to really drop that defensiveness. And when they're defensive, we often ourselves start to jump to more conclusions and conclusions about them, and we jump to more accusations that end up leading us to get in fights with them and to end up in just arguments going around and around in circles, right? And part of that is because, like, when they get defensive, we start thinking things like, oh, they're selfish, or they don't even care about me, or they're making it all about them again, right? Like sometimes, like, you come to your partner with some heartfelt emotions, and then when they get defensive, it feels like they're just making it all about them again. And that can feel so frustrating. And then you have both partners end up being really defensive towards each other. Some of these thoughts, like, oh, they're making it all about them again, or they're so selfish. Some of those thoughts actually end up coming out verbally or expressively, right? Like through the way you look, right? Sometimes you don't have to say anything, and you know what you're thinking. And some of us are that way more than others. We don't have to say a thing, and our partners can kind of read into some of the thoughts that we're having. So none of these help the problem, right? Our reactions to defensiveness often don't help the problem. They only exacerbate the problem. So it's important to know, to back up a second and to kind of look at the real reasons for defensiveness. Is your partner just trying to be selfish? Are they trying to just, get under your skin? Are they trying to make it all about them? No, absolutely not. The real reasons for defensiveness are three things. They're fear, right? That could be anything from, I'm afraid I'm not doing enough. I'm afraid I'm going to do it all wrong. I'm afraid that everything that I do is never going to be good enough, right? That leads into the second one, which is insecurity, and that they might be judging themselves for certain things as well. And like, it feels so heavy that the only way they know to express that is to get defensive and say, oh, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel insecure. I don't want to feel shame. I don't want to feel guilt. So I'm going to get defensive and block it from coming at me because I'm already feeling that way, right? So, and then other reasons for defensiveness could be past experiences, the way they were brought up as a child, or past relationship experiences that kind of felt similar. And so they're kind of afraid of those things, and they get defensive to kind of push it off. So a great question. First of all, let's just all admit here, it would be really nice if our partners always knew what to do with their own defensiveness, right? And to kind of start managing their own emotions around it. That will be beautiful. and we can, really kind of just start to trust that they will figure that out in time. But we can do things as their partner to help them with it. So one of the best questions to ask yourself when your partner starts to get defensive is this: I wonder what's really going on. I wonder why they are feeling so triggered right now. What's really going on, right? That is such a beautiful question to just give yourself pause and help you to tap into kind of what's really going on. I have a story about my client, Sarah, who really started asking herself that question. And she also started adding a few new tools to her communication toolbox that I'll share with you in a minute. But Sarah came to me so frustrated because anytime she brought up something that needed to be done around her home, her husband would get really defensive. And it always turned into arguments of, where like they would get into arguments, and then one or both of them would just shut down and either walk away or just like feel so exhausted that they just wanted to give up on the conversation, right? And their conversations just ultimately led to nowhere. But Sarah learned to respond differently with the ultimate intention, her ultimate like true intention in those in her responses was to feel connected and supported. Those are two beautiful feelings to go after in a marriage. But she wanted to, she started kind of saying, okay, how can I respond to him if I want to feel connected to him and then ultimately supported in the end? And she started with connection, and then she asked for support. So in our last session, she came to me and she said, well, we still need a massive amount of organization in our home and in our teamwork, but there is so much more peace in the way that we communicate. And she said, he feels like I understand him. And I'm, and I'm feeling like we're actually solving our problems a little bit more every day instead of just constantly arguing. And she said, it just feels lighter in the house right now, even though we're still figuring out the best ways to share the load. And that's the ultimate goal, right? That is like we're seeking change in our relationships because we want to feel better. It's really ultimately not about how messy the house is or how much needs to get done and how much we have to do in life. We're really seeking answers to all of these things because we want to feel better. So they are, this couple, Sarah and her husband, are starting the process with understanding communication and feeling lighter in their conversations. So I want to share with you the steps that she took to help her husband drop defensiveness and create that true connection that she was looking for. So here's the 5 things that she did and that you can start doing too when your partner responds with defensiveness. Number 1, she started pausing and listening to what he had to say. So pause and listen to what your partner has to say, and don't respond with a quick defensive reaction of your own. And then after you've heard them, the next step, number 2, is to validate your partner by acknowledging that their perspective and emotions are real. You can do this without sharing the same feelings or perspective even. A simple statement like, I hear you. I can see that you're frustrated, right? I think you might be even like acknowledging, I think you might be feeling criticized by me or blamed by me. It's a great response, right? Like you're showing them that you hear them and that you see their frustration. And they might respond with something like, well, you are criticizing me or you are blaming me, and I do feel blamed. And you can just simply say, that's not my intention. And I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not my intention. And then you can leave some room for them to say more. Let them get their feelings out. Make sure that they feel heard. Make sure that they complete their sentences. Pause and listen, truly listen, and then respond to them by verbally, acknowledging, yes, I see that you feel that way. And then number 3 is to ask their perspective on the issue. For example, let's just take the household chores. If it's household chores that you're wanting to talk about and to find more teamwork in, ask them what their view is on it. What can you learn about your partner here? Their view might be totally different than you. This is called mapping. When it's like learning the map of your partner so that you can understand how they really feel about things. And when you understand how they really feel about things, the better your communication will be. So learn what's really going on in their head, right? Like if you imagine like their brain and like all of their experiences and all of their situations and all of their hang-ups and opinions and things like that. Like, you want to know those. You want to know the full map of your partner so that you can really understand the next best steps to communicate with them in a way that they will understand. And some differences you might find are that their standards are different than yours. Maybe they don't need, it could be two things. If you're talking about chores, maybe they don't need the house to be as clean as you do. And maybe they want it to be more clean. You want to understand your partner's different standards. And also recognize that there is no right or wrong in that, right? That's so important to understand, is like, when you learn the different perspectives that you have, neither way is right or wrong. And then other differences are, they might be doing more than you realize, right? I think so many times, like, we are in our own heads, we're in our own lanes in our relationships, and we're not realizing all the little micro things that our partners do every day to help out and to take care of things. Sometimes that is not the case. I will admit, sometimes, like, the teamwork is so unbalanced. But sometimes our partners really are doing so much, and we need to recognize that as well. So, learn what they are doing throughout the day. That's another great question to say is that, why don't you have time for this or this? Tell me more. What's going on in your day? I want to understand what you do in a day. And then another difference that you could learn about is, like, where are they having stress in areas that you might not realize, right? And understanding their stresses throughout the day is so important. So these are all still under the number 3, is to ask their perspective, right? What's going on in their brain? What are they dealing with? How are their standards different than yours? All of that. And maybe they have struggles that you don't realize. Maybe their health is struggling, or maybe they're struggling with worries about an issue that you have no clue about. Make sure that you understand what's going on in your partner's life so that you can genuinely communicate with them without defensiveness. And then, other things that are important to understand is their history, right? Like, they might remember their mom nagging them all the time and never feeling worthy enough. So, and it's possible that your approach to making change in your relationship is simply a trigger of an old childhood wound. So, their perspective on things and their inner world could be anything, and you want to know that. So it's important to create, a safe space for them to really share their perspective on any issue that you might feel is black and white. Number 4 is to validate again out loud. Now that you know their feelings and can understand their world a little bit more inside of their own head, validate them. Simply say, I understand where you're coming from now. I can see why you're overwhelmed with this too. I can see why this is hard for you too. Then you can again validate your own feelings. This is so important. You're not just brushing your own feelings under the rug here. It's important to validate your own feelings and out loud and share them with your partner as well. You can, at the end of validating their feelings, you can say, I feel overwhelmed too. I feel frustrated and confused by this, right? Those I statements, I feel this, really keeps any blame and criticism of them out of the picture. It's just simply, hey, I feel this way. I feel frustrated. I feel lonely. I feel confused. I feel, exhausted by this as well. And then when you understand each other's feelings, understand each other's perspectives, you can ask them, hey, I want to know your opinion. You can just say, do you have any suggestions on how we can meet in the middle with this issue? Right? So number 5 is ask their opinion. What do you think? Do you have any suggestions? I want to know what you think. I want to know how you would solve this on your own. So, this is a step that often gets ignored or missed, but it's so important. Ask their opinion. What if they do have a different approach to managing some of your issues? And what if their approach works? What if it just works magically, right? Or what if, a small tweak that they would make, or a small tweak that you would make, is the magic ingredient to actually make these things work? So it's worth asking them their opinion and trying it out. Knowing how to respond to your partner's defensiveness is a crucial skill to learn in any relationship. So it's worth practicing. This work that I teach in here isn't about making sure that you stay married forever, right? I am not in the business. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it again. I am not in the business of convincing people to stay married. That decision is ultimately your choice. And I support you either way. Like, only you know what's best for you. And, this work is not just about better teamwork and better sex or a clean house. Yes, we want those things. And yes, I know how to teach you to get more of the things that you want. But this work goes deeper. This work is about learning how to have confidence in yourself to keep improving your relationship with you along this journey of being partnered with someone. And it's about it's about not being fazed by normal relationship struggles, but knowing that you have the ability to grow through them and solve the problems that are actually solvable, and also radically accept and learn to manage the problems that are not solvable. The Gottman Institute has shown that 69% of problems in marriages are not solvable. I think that's important for us to recognize. Like, there are no magic potions out there to make all of your problems go away. But you can learn to manage them. You can learn to manage those 69% of problems and thrive in your relationship in spite of them. And I also love to, when a lot of times people will look at that as a negative, like, oh my gosh, 69% of my problems are going to still be here. Yeah, but look at the 31%. That's actually a huge number. That 31% of your problems can be solved. That's pretty amazing. Nobody's talking about that. So if you could solve 31% of your problems and then learn to manage the other 69%, you guys, your marriage would be thriving. And this is what we're going to do inside the Stoked membership. The Stoked marriage membership for women only is now open. And I want you to think about joining. In that membership, you're going to learn to solve the problems that you can. We're going to look at that 31% and say, yep, let's solve these problems. And you're going to learn to manage the ones you can't with compassion, love, and even laughter. And you'll create a relationship that you're stoked to be in. That's why I named it Stoked Marriage Mastermind, because you are going to create a relationship that you are stoked to be in. Not from perfectionism, but by solving the 31% of the problems that you can, and by managing with love and compassion and laughter the things that you can't. So I'm going to help you get rid of all the self-criticism and help you get rid of any guilt and shame that's holding you back from this. I'll help you know how to feel more joy and peace instead of frustration and anger in your relationship. My mission is to help women like being married again. Is that too much to ask? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. And I want you to believe that too. It is not too much to like being married to the person that you want to be married to for life. And I want you to know that so much of that is in your power. And, Stoked is the place where we learn these skills and we practice them and we come and get coached and supported when it gets hard. The Stoked Marriage Mastermind is like a gym membership, only it's for your brain and for your relationships. You can listen all day to tie it into the gym membership. You could listen all day long and read all the fancy books about, exactly what to do to be healthy. But unless you show up, move your body, eat healthy, and yes, sometimes go to the gym to get the support and the encouragement that you need, all that head knowledge won't do a bit of good. So in Stoked, you will implement these skills and will be sure that you can have the best marriage possible. You're going to learn how to trust yourself. You're going to learn how to create genuine, deep connection with your partner. And you'll learn how to rise up and do your part in creating a life and marriage that you feel stoked to be in. So Stoked is just $67 per month right now for the founding members. So if you're interested in joining, I'm not going to talk you into joining anymore. If you are interested, just go to stokedmarriage.com and just check it out. And if you want to join, awesome. And if not, I will see you guys next week.